Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, hanap ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay.
Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting. Sa manlulupi, di ka masisingil.
Sa dagat ang tulong, sa simoy at sa langit mong buhaw. May dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal.
Ang iskap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidingding.
Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim.
Sumanang araw ng buwan, aking pagsimba. Kaya natin sa Pino, pinag ang ligaya na pagmay marami.
Ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please take your seats. To formally open this event, may we call on Dr. Mahalea V. Ravago, Center Director, SEAMEO INNOTECH, for the opening remarks.
Honorable Secretary Sani Angara, Philippine Department of Education, and President of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Council, or SEAMEC, His Excellency Dato Abdul Malik Melvin Castellano, Malaysian Ambassador, ASEC Georgina Yang of DepEd, Mr. John Arnold Shena, Deputy for Program and Development, SEAMEO Secretariat. Dr. Ivan Anthony Hanares, Secretary General of UNICOM, Department of Foreign Affairs. Ms. Nelly Nita Diliera, Deputy Director General for Tibet Partnership and Community-Based Tibet TESDA. Distinguished guests and speakers, esteemed colleagues, valued partners in education, and friends, a pleasant morning to all. Good morning. It is with immense honor and enthusiasm that I welcome you to the launch of the Filipino version of the 2023 UNESCO Global Education Monitoring, or GEM report, Southeast Asia Technology in Education, a tool on whose terms. This impactful report, unveiled in English on November 30, 2023, during the 46th SEAMEO High Officials Meeting in Bangkok, Thailand, provides essential insights into the transformative role of technology in education across Southeast Asia. It acknowledges both the vast potential and the significant challenges we face. To ensure that we embrace accessibility and inclusivity, summary translations of this report have been prepared in multiple Southeast Asian languages, including Bahasa Indonesia, Bahasa Melayu, Burmese Khmer, Lao, Tetum Thai, Vietnamese, and now in Filipino. This milestone exemplifies our unwavering commitment to inclusive education, ensuring that every learner, irrespective of language, has access to relevant and meaningful knowledge. SEAMEO INNOTECH is profoundly grateful and honored to launch this Philippine version of the report in partnership with UNESCO, the Department of Education, and the SEAMEO Secretariat. The report offers a comprehensive analysis of Southeast Asia's educational landscape, featuring insightful country case studies, with the Philippines case studies thoughtfully prepared by the Philippine Normal University. It also encompasses thematic insights from SEAMEO centers, including, of course, INNOTECH, REXAM, SIMOLEC, SEN, and VOCTEC. More importantly, this report emerges at the pivotal moment. As countries across our regions navigate the rapid evolution of technology-driven learning, we are confronted with fundamental questions. How can we ensure that technology genuinely enhances education for all? How do we bridge digital divides and strengthen teacher capacity? And how can we strike the right balance between innovation and equity in access? The insights from this GEM report provide valuable data, case studies, and policy recommendations to help us find answers. For instance, it reveals that wealthier students are nearly 8 times more likely to have internet access at home compared to their less affluent peers. Additionally, less than half of rural schools have internet access, highlighting the urgent need to confront these disparities. At SEAMEO INNOTECH, we have witnessed firsthand the transformation power of technology education. Digital tools have the potential to enhance student engagement, yet their true impact on learning outcomes remain under research. We must also be cognizant about the risks associated with increased screen time, online safety concerns, and the spread of misinformation. Technology can streamline administrative tasks, freeing time for meaningful education activities and generating data for informed decision-making. However, regulatory challenges and insufficient teacher training can hinder effective implementation. The report emphasizes the importance of evidence-based policymaking to ensure that technology investments yield tangible benefits. Here at SEAMEO INNOTECH, we are dedicated to advancing education through research, innovation, and collaboration. As a leading institution devoted to addressing the national educational challenges and needs of Southeast Asian countries, SEAMEO INNOTECH develops innovative and technology-based solutions to enhance education in the Southeast Asian region. This event is more than just a report launch. It is a call to action to foster dialogue, share best practices, and forge stronger partnerships and drive meaningful change. On behalf of SEAMEO INNOTECH, I extend my deepest gratitude to UNESCO and SEAMEO Secretariat for leading this initiative, the UNICOM, PNU, and honorable speakers for your invaluable contributions also to the Department of Education for co-organizing this event, and to all those who have worked tirelessly to bring this report to fruition. Let this be the moment of reflection, engagement, and collective action as we strive toward an education system where technology empowers every learner everywhere. Muli, thank you very much and mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ravago, for that insightful and inspirational message. To represent Datuk Dr. Habiba Abdul Rahim, Director, SEAMEO Secretariat, may we invite Mr. John Arnold Siena, SEAMEO Secretariat, Deputy Director for Program and Development, for a message.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Juan Edgardo Sani Angara, Secretary of the Department of Education of the Philippines, at the same time, the SEAMEO Council President. Dr. Mahalea V. Ravago, Center Director of SEAMEO INNOTECH. His Excellency Datu Abdul Malik Melvin Castellino, Ambassador of Malaysia to the Philippines. Assistant Secretary Georgina Ann Hernandez Yang. Other esteemed officials of the Department of Education, education leaders and partners, SEAMEO INNOTECH colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Good morning. It is my great honor and immense pleasure to represent Datuk Dr. Habiba Abdul Rahim, our SEAMEO Secretariat Director, to join you today for the Philippines national launch of the 2023 Global Education Monitoring Report, Southeast Asia Report on Technology and Education. I would like to begin by expressing our sincerest gratitude to Dr. Mahalea V. Ravago, Director of SEAMEO INNOTECH, and her team for their warm welcome and hospitality in hosting this national launch. SEAMEO, with its 11 member countries, 9 associate member countries, 8 affiliate members, and 26 regional centers and network, is committed to achieving our vision of a better quality of life for every citizen in Southeast Asia by promoting collaboration in education, science, and culture. To achieve this vision, we have several priority areas, one of which is advancing the 21st century skills among our learners and our citizens, including navigating education technology and digital skills. We recognize that technology has become an integral part of our daily lives, particularly in the realm of education, where it is not just a tool, but a catalyst for change inside the classrooms and education systems. To further deepen our understanding of education technology in the region, SEAMEO has partnered with UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Report Team based in Paris to develop the 2023 Global Education Monitoring Report on Technology in Education in Southeast Asia. On behalf of the SEAMEO Secretariat and the UNESCO GEM Report team, I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to present the key highlights of this report later to the esteemed policymakers here in the Philippines. This GEM report on technology and education in Southeast Asia seeks to be our guide as we navigate the digital transformation of education in Southeast Asia. It highlights the immense potential technology holds to revolutionize learning, foster innovative teaching methodologies, increase accessibility and inclusion, and improve education governance. However, it also sheds light on the challenges that demand our attention: issues of equity, access, governance, and regulations, and the need for adaptable policies in the face of rapid technological advancements. Before we dive into the key highlights and recommendations, I would like to emphasize that this GEM report is more than just a compilation of facts and figures. It encapsulates the dynamic landscape of education technology in our region. It dives into the gains we have made, recognizing our successes while confronting the challenges that persist and those that lie ahead. It draws on the experience and expertise of policymakers, educators, and researchers, and evidence from research studies, offering an understanding of the lessons learned from the formulation of education technology policies and programs, implementation on the ground, and the outcomes of these initiatives. Following this, we will present the key findings and recommendations from the GEM report. We hope that these insights are considered in shaping education policies, especially now that the Philippines is undergoing major reforms through the recommendations of EDCOM 2. How do we leverage technology towards achieving our goals in education? Which is the core of the one of the core questions that we need to ask. As we discuss the findings in this report, let us be reminded to keep our learners at the forefront of this conversation, and also the teachers. They are, after all, the teachers and our learners are the reason we are here today, the driving force behind our policies and the ultimate beneficiaries of our efforts. As we flesh out the findings of the report, we must ensure that our focus remains on our learners and teachers in the classroom. Technology and education is not merely about the tools and platforms, it is about how our learners engage, learn, and thrive. It must be relevant, evidence-based, scalable, and sustainable. Finally, we also hope that through this GEM report and through this launch today, the findings and recommendations of this report will be able to build opportunities for regional collaboration in the field of education technology specifically and in education in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Siena, for sharing with us Dr. Habiba's message. And now we've come to the highlights of the day. We are honored to have with us Secretary Sani Angara, Secretary, Department of Education and concurrent President, SEAMEO Council. Please join us for a keynote message, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. To our distinguished guests, I'd like to greet His Excellency Ambassador Dato Abdul Malik Castellino from Malaysia. Of course, our newly installed SEAMEO INNOTECH Director, Dr. Maha Lea Ravago. To John Arnold Siena, Director of the Deputy Director of the SEAMEO Secretariat. To President Bertuga of PNU. Executive Director Teresita Insiong of the ECCD Council, to our esteemed panelists for today, to Asek Yang of DepEd and our DepEd family, the teachers and students from Kulyat High School, UNESCO clubs from JRU and National University, and our partners from both the private and public sectors working in education. Magandang umaga. Good morning, everyone. Today we launched the Philippine version of the GEM, or the Global Education Monitoring Report, and we congratulate everyone involved in this timely report. This document is our rear-view mirror. It shows our place in the regional education sector. And the report raises a crucial question. On whose terms is technology being implemented in education? In the rush to digitize, we must not forget the realities of our learners and our educators. The GEM report reminds us of certain things. That education policies must address the needs of learners in urban areas with strong connectivity, as well as those in remote rural communities, noting what was said that half of rural schools have no connectivity, mentioned by Director Ravago. Teachers need digital literacy training. The tools, or digital tools, are not plug and play, and our teachers are not robots. They need support to effectively navigate the digital classroom. Schools with limited resources must receive equal attention because every student, no matter where they are, deserves the same opportunities. Equity should be at the core of all of our efforts. Technology should bridge gaps and rather than widen them. The 2023 GEM report reminds us to ensure that no learner or teacher gets left behind in the digital race. So this report is more than a document, ladies and gentlemen. It is our guide, urging us to make inclusive and meaningful decisions. We at DepEd, for us at DepEd, technology is not just a trend we're chasing, it's crafting our path forward. This is the marching order from no less than the President, Bongbong Marcos Jr. himself. Technology should be at the forefront and back end of our progress. He reminded us during his last State of the Nation address that we must not only bridge the classroom divide, but also the digital divide. And his reminder to us is to pursue the classroom of the future while ensuring that our data is setting us up for success. The pandemic may have exposed our system's weaknesses, but in DepEd, we believe that crisis breeds innovation. The pandemic, or the 2023 GEM report, noted that the Philippines had one of the longest school closures globally, leading to a 20% drop in participation rates and challenges in enrollment. Even to this day, over the last few years, enrollment has stayed steady, showing that many students are perhaps not in schools. Many students and teachers struggled with blended learning due to the lack of devices, poor connectivity, and unfamiliarity with digital tools. This is why we have strengthened DepEd computerization program despite the recent budget cut. We have embraced a no signal, no problem philosophy. Just having laptops without internet will already accelerate the work of our teachers, as mentioned earlier. Having a roving computer lab in a rural school will already familiarize our students for future work. We also partnered recently with the National Electrification Administration, or NEA, to provide solar electricity to our remaining schools, or last mile schools, with no power. After all, what are laptops without energy to power them? We recall a visit to one of the islands where they had new laptops, but they had no power to charge the laptops. So we will also be formally launching later this afternoon the Education Center for Artificial Intelligence Research, or ECARE. And through this initiative, DepEd will be harnessing big data to solve our long-standing challenges and cut our problem-solving time in half. The initial problem or obstacle is the lack of reliable data across the board. So this is something we have to improve, a culture we have to embrace and imbibe in our education system. Above all else, we're investing in our teachers because they are at the heart of our system. With the right tools and training, they can lead our learners confidently into the digital future. Thus, this report is our map for the road ahead. Let us examine it with care and act with urgency for the future of our learners. It highlights the gaps to guide us towards progress. It also pushes us to rework our plans, refocus our efforts, and reimagine our strategies. It reminds us to put equity at the center of every policy and program. Our job is to turn these challenges into opportunities. Just as we expect our teachers to innovate, we too, as policymakers, must innovate and persevere. Once more, congratulations and thanks to all those who worked on the 2023 GEM report. Maraming salamat, magandang araw po sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary. Please remain on stage po. Yan, for that inspirational, encouraging message. May we respectfully ask our Center Director, Dr. Mahalea V. Rabago, and our Center Deputy Director, Mrs. Cochacorn Katapan Asidre, on stage to please present our token of appreciation. Thank you so much, Secretary Angara, Dr. Ravago, and Deputy Director Asidre. Before we proceed to the official launching, we have two experts, one with global perspective and one with regional perspective, who will share with us the gist of this Global Economic Monitoring Report, or the GEM report. First, we have a video message from Dr. Manos Antoninis, Director, UNESCO GEM Report.
Your Excellency, dear Mr. Angara, Secretary of the Department of Education, dear Mr. Ravago, Director of SEAMEO INNOTECH, dear Dr. Henares, Secretary General, UNESCO National Commission of the Philippines, dear Dr. Tuga, dear colleagues and friends from SEAMEO, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to join you remotely for the national launch of the 2023 Southeast Asia Report on Technology and Education in the Philippines. This report is the result of 3-year collaboration with SEAMEO to provide evidence-based research and policy recommendations on the challenges and opportunities of technology in education across Southeast Asia. Covering 11 countries, Brunei Darussalam, Cambodia, Laos PDR, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam, this report draws on extensive research. It includes, in this respect, 9 country case studies compiled by local research teams and independent experts, 5 thematic studies from SEAMEO centers, covering areas such as open and distance learning, technology for students with disabilities, and the integration of technology in teaching, and 3 additional research inputs from SEAMEO affiliates and partners on ICT practices in education. In the case of the Philippines, we were very fortunate to have 2 key background papers that enriched our report. A country case study prepared by the Philippine Normal University and a thematic paper by SEAMEO INNOTECH on the use of technology in education in the Philippines. We extend our sincere gratitude to colleagues from both institutions for their valuable contribution, which have helped to highlight critical insights on how technology is shaping education in the country. And as we will hear from our presenters, distance learning has a long history in the Philippines, dating back to the 50s. Today, we know also that the country, along with Indonesia and Vietnam, has some of the highest enrollment rates in Coursera, an open education platform. The government has also made significant efforts to improve digital infrastructure and enhance accessibility features, ensuring a more inclusive education system. At the same time, low-tech solutions such as radio and television continue to play a vital role, for example, to reach learners in remote areas. A particularly interesting case that is highlighted in the report is the Philippine Alternative Learning System, which combines different modalities, for example, face-to-face instruction with printed materials, broadcast media, and online learning with formal and informal approaches. 83% of students rely on paper-based materials, 40% engage in blended learning, and 1% expressed preferences for fully online learning and digital modules, with less than 1% opting for radio or TV-based instructions. I am sure our distinguished speakers today will provide further insights and examples. And I want to take a moment to highlight the significance of today's event, not only as an opportunity to present the report, but also as an important platform for discussion with key policymakers and stakeholders. The recommendations in this report are rooted in the realities of the region and the world. They advocate for curriculum reforms that integrate technology meaningfully, evidence-informed interventions that enhance learning outcomes, equitable and inclusive policies that ensure no learner is left behind, scalability and sustainability of education technology initiatives, always keeping teachers and especially learners at the center. We hope today's discussion will inspire new ways to harness technology for education in the Philippines and across the region. So I would really like to thank you, and I look forward to the conversation ahead. Thank you again to be with us today.
That is Ms. Ana Cristina Dadio, Senior Policy Officer and Thematic Leader from UNESCO, spoke on behalf of Dr. Antoninis. Moving to a closer look at the regional level and touch a bit upon the GEM report, 2023 Philippine version, I would like to call on again Mr. John Arnold Siena, Deputy Director for Program and Development, SEAMEO Secretariat. Mr. Siena, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning once again. Before I proceed, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Commissioner and former Director of SEAMEO Secretariat, Dr. Ethel Agnes Valenzuela. I think the discussion on this report started during her term, and when the new director came in 2023, we continued the conversation and the development of the report. So, Dr. Valenzuela. Anyway, good morning. It is my pleasure to share and present the highlights of the Regional GEM Report on Technology and Education. I will also present the salient recommendations building on the findings. So one of the most important highlights of the report is that the digital infrastructure in the region has expanded rapidly. And as you can see, the internet use has also expanded with this rapid development in infrastructure. We have witnessed that Southeast Asia has the fastest growth rates globally in terms of internet use, increasing from just 16% in 2004 to 70% in 2021. In 2020 alone, 40 million Southeast Asians went online for the first time. However, the report also emphasized the huge variance within and among countries in the region. One example is that access to the internet from home of Southeast Asian students. So for example, while the average is 57%, the range among countries is from 16% to 98%. So you can just imagine the distance from 16% to 19% across Southeast Asia. So while we can say that the technology-enabled solutions have expanded access to education, we also learned that technology has not yet fully transformed education due to the challenges that remain. And these factors include socioeconomic levels, and we know the disparity not just across Southeast Asia, but also within countries and within regions and provinces within countries. Education level of the citizens, even the teacher willingness and preparedness. And this is something that is also at the core of our conversation, because if our teachers are not willing and are not prepared, then the use of technology in the classroom to transform our practices may not be achieved. Also, we have seen from the report that the evidence on impact is limited and depends on the type of technology and the kinds of learning. For example, while we are looking at Malaysia that has provided access to education for students in rural areas through virtual classrooms, the use of mobile and online technology at the primary and secondary level is not well documented. And the critical role of technology came to fore, especially during the 2019-2020 pandemic, when the students had to be, had to learn from distance learning. And because of this disruption, the system had to adjust. However, we saw how technology was very powerful in terms of making sure that we are able to provide education in a situation like this. So we have resorted to different forms of technology during the pandemic. And more mature technologies have actually helped millions, where these technologies were able to reach over 1 million students in remote areas, even with teacher shortages in Thailand, for example. In Malaysia, a digital Braille textbook supported learning for visually impaired students while learning in their respective homes. And these new distance learning policies were adopted as well in Malaysia that led to the institutionalization of online learning. With the acknowledgement that education technology has the potential to transform education in terms of access and equity, quality, and education management, there remain issues that need to be addressed. And these issues are really at the core of what we want to discuss, especially during our forum later. We have seen disparities in terms of access to technology, and as mentioned by Dr. Ravago earlier, students from richest households are 8 times likely to be connected to the internet as those from poorest households. And also, we have seen that the ability to use technology is the cause of our worry in terms of the use of technology to transform education. As I mentioned, teachers themselves, if they are not willing and are not prepared, would be a very important issue to tackle. In 1 in 3 adults in 7 Southeast Asian countries can send emails with attachments, but then we have seen how our teachers, based on the CPLM report, are struggling in terms of their confidence in using the technology in the classroom. We have also seen with the democratization of the digital space, where anyone and everyone everywhere can actually create content and post them in their respective social media accounts or in different platforms. We have seen the proliferation of content everywhere. So some content are good, excellent. They've gone through a series of maybe quality assurance, but of course with lack of regulation in terms of how do you decide whether this particular content can be made available online, that becomes a problematic, because then everybody will have access to, whoever has access to internet and have access to these materials without discernment, without proper training and orientation on how to use these pieces of content, then they might be misled to use it as if it was correct and valid, right? And we acknowledge that education can change the way we teach to enhance the experience of learners as well as of teachers. So we can, through technology, we can personalize learning experiences, we can customize. Our practices can be data-driven, especially for teachers, if we are able to use the technology well. But then again, if we lack the systematic evidence that it works in context, then how do we then say that this technology is going to work in different contexts? Especially in a region where we are saying that the variance in the region is really very, very great. And at best, if we have the evidence, the results are really mixed. So in some contexts, technology can fill quality gaps, increase practice time, as we said, personalized instruction, and help engage, in improving engagement of students and learners. However, we have seen that the use of technology can also lead to other issues. For instance, in Cambodia and Indonesia, they are banning mobile phones, and 60% of students in Vietnam reported the same because they have seen that excessive use of technology can be counterproductive and can distract the learners and maybe even teachers from the actual meaningful interaction in the classroom. And sometimes, and in many cases, the focus is on digital input, meaning to say we buy computers, gadgets, and so on. For example, in Thailand, they bought 800,000 tablets and distributed in the different schools in 2010, but the impact was not really known. So this is something that we need to really look at in terms of what kind of technology do we purchase. This is a very important decision that we make. Again, we look at evidence. Which of these technologies will actually work in our respective context? So it's important that when we decide to acquire and to distribute gadgets, infrastructure, and so on, that there's evidence that we are able to monitor the implementation and that we're able to show proof that this intervention is actually working. So as mentioned, if there is one education sector that has really benefited from the rapid developments in education technology, and this is very much palpable during the COVID-19 pandemic, it is in the area of higher education, where open and distance learning expanded the equitable access in higher education. For instance, in Myanmar, distance education provided access to about 60% of Myanmar's undergraduate students. And in Malaysia, 70% of programs are required to use blended learning models by 2025, and I think this was actually the pandemic has actually provided that impetus for this policy push. And then, but however, even in higher education, as in the basic education, the lack of educator capacity remains an obstacle. So as we indicated in the report, in Vietnam, for example, 2 in 3 university lecturers, students in Vietnam said lecturers have low ICT competence, affecting effective technology integration in higher education classrooms. And speaking of benefits to education, one area is in education management. And we have seen also some examples of how countries and schools have adopted technology in order to enhance education management. However, we have seen that there can be some obstacles as well in terms of, for example, in the Philippines, how do we then make the systems talk to each other, the interoperability of systems, so that the services will be seamless, and that whatever data that we have in one system can also be captured in one system, so that when we make decisions, we don't look at different and separate systems, but in fact looking at the entire data set coming from different systems to make those decisions. And of course, we are drawn to the potential of education technology and technology in general sometimes. As they say, shining object, like phenomenon. It's so good, everybody talks about it. But then, sometimes we overlook the long-term costs on persons, society, and the planet. Specifically, for instance, when we talk of long-term cost, we don't just look at the acquisition cost at that point when we decide. It's how do you maintain this? How do you then resolve the issue on the upgrading of this equipment? How do you safekeep? For example, because I'm Filipino and I think I've also witnessed some of these when for example, we buy equipment, brought them and bring them to the classrooms, but then a few days later, all this equipment are gone. Your guess is as good as mine, right? They're nowhere. So these things, right? If they're reported, the question is how do we then replace them? And this is not, sometimes we can say that this is not an isolated case. And then when there are typhoons and there are natural calamities and so on, or even man-made calamities, we have seen this in the Philippines, right? The risks of this, of having expensive equipment in the classrooms, again, we have to also take a look at that. And then at the same time, the use of technology, and as we have seen this with AI, for example, we have seen how data can actually be accessed. Sometimes we are maybe out of whether we're innocent or we are, we get into the trap of just, encoding whatever data that you have. For example, there is this platform that says, oh, you can develop your materials and then submit it to us, and we will turn this into a very nice presentation. But we don't know. But what we don't know that at the back end, all these are being captured by algorithm, and eventually, repackaged and so on. So we don't know the integrity actually of whether this content, once they are already in the system, whether they are also quality assured, and it's already so presented as something that's presentable and. Never mind whether it's credible, right? So we have to be wary about encoding our own personal data because, again, we have seen this. Personal data can be while it can be a lucrative, it can be turned into a lucrative opportunity, but it also endangers our students in the education setting. And of course, in terms of environmental issues. Like, I think that the figure itself will also tell us that we are generating a lot of e-waste already. And during remember Dr. Sherlyn, when we were in Japan, one of the speakers mentioned about our use of AI, for example, is taking more of the energy, using more energy, and we are really not aware about it. And we're, just continue with what we're doing, but using AI can have effect on the environment as well in terms of the use of energy and our carbon footprint and so on, right? So as the study also noted that in some countries, laws, policies, and regulations can be present, but it can also be inadequate. In other words, some can be systematic, but others are really isolated policies. So not looking at the entire picture of the education technology used in the classrooms and in the system. And sometimes there are policies and laws in place, but the implementation is the problem. How do we monitor the implementation? How do we evaluate whether this policy is effective? And what did we learn from that implementation? And how do we carry that forward so that as we continue to innovate our education system, we are using our evidence from the implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. So sometimes, really, it's not about the lack of policy, but it's really about the implementation and the monitoring and evaluation that is quite problematic. So as we reflect on the findings indicated in the report, we are torn between 4 tensions. And these tensions involve whether how do we balance personalization and adaptation versus the social dimension of education. For example, we are saying that distance education has enabled us to personalize and to customize and to allow students to learn anywhere, everywhere, at home, wherever they are. But at what cost? Some people are saying, well, because I've been isolated, especially during pandemic, I spiraled into depression and all these things. And social isolation can be something that we have to grapple with. And that has become an increasingly and alarmingly increasing in society where technology is very prevalent. And then, again, inclusivity versus exclusivity. We said that there's a rapid advancement in terms of technology infrastructure and the use of the internet and so on. But do we also look at others who don't have access to this? As we said, students from rich households can have access to internet 8 times, okay, as opposed to those who belong to the poor households. So how do we balance inclusivity and exclusivity? Because while we're saying that technology is becoming cheaper and cheaper, yes, right? But we need to also consider that there are others who, despite this trend, cannot still afford. And how about those who are marginalized or disadvantaged because of their circumstances, disabilities, for instance, right? So this is something that we need to look at. And again, commercial interest versus common good. How do we then, while we engage with partners, they have excellent products, but then we need to also make sure that while there is business interest, but that the common good is also being taken care of. And of course, again, I mentioned about short-term efficiency and long-term costs, right? And of course, we know that technology just changes very, very fast. I mean, even while we talk here, maybe there is something else in AI, in the world of AI, that we are not yet aware of. And that's something that we have to be on the lookout for continually, right? So, in an attempt to resolve those tensions, the report is offering a compass when deciding to deploy technology in education. So, for instance, in the use of technology, the question on scalability. Can it be efficiently implemented to as many and as wide an area at least cost possible? Is it appropriate? If it is scalable, is it fit to context? Are the students being considered in adopting this technology? Is there learning outcomes at the forefront of what we discuss when we decide to adopt a particular technology? And again, the question on sustainability is very much, is always there in terms of the long-term cost, as I mentioned, the cost to the persons, to individuals, the cost to the planet, the cost to society. And of course, equity, right? Again, I mentioned about students who are households that are marginalized, who are disadvantaged in different forms of, different levels and forms of inequities in our society. So we need to be able to reach out to those that are otherwise disadvantaged because of technology. So the question on whether when we use technology, we are able to address not just access to this technology, but also whether there is equitable access to it. So finally, the report embraced the hashtag Tech on our terms, as highlighted by our dear secretary, to emphasize the centrality of our learners, and I should not forget, because I am a teacher, and teachers who are at the receiving end of our decisions, policies, and programs, while reminding ourselves that education technology should not substitute human interaction. I've been watching a lot of AI and robot movies lately, and while it's quite exciting to see how robots can be very intelligent and sometimes can be emotional in the movies anyways, but it also scares me, right? It's also really scary. So we should always also think about how will technology enhance our humanity? The quality of our human interaction, whether this is in the classroom, or whether this is in the communities where we live every day. Because this is how we keep our humanity in this era of advanced technology and artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Siena, for giving us a closer look at the Global Education Report at the regional level. And now, to the most important moment of the day, and it's the moment that everyone is waiting for, to officially launch the Global Education Monitoring Report under the theme Technology in Education. It is my honor to invite our Center Director, Dr. Mahalea V. Ravago, and our honorable guest, Secretary Sani Angara, Mr. John Arnold Siena from SEAMES, Dr. Bert Tuga from PNU, Dr. Ivan Anthony Henares from UNESCO, Dr. Ethel Agnes Valenzuela from CHED, and Mr. Edward De La Rosa from TESDA. And front, please, to officially launch the GEM Report Philippine version. All right, guys, let's help them in launching. I will be counting from 3, 2, 1 later on as they launch the GEM report. All right, are we ready? And now let's count together in 3, 2, 1. Please press the button. Everyone, please give them a round of applause. Congratulations. All right. Thank you very much. Kindly remain in front for the photo ops. All right. First, let's have our honorable guest again with our Center Director, Dr. Mahavi Ravago, Secretary Sani Angara, Mr. Siena, Dr. Tuga, Dr. Henares, Dr. Valenzuela, and Mr. De La Rosa. Next, may we call in ASEC Georgina Yang of DepEd, and Ambassador Datu Abdul Malik Melvin Castellino of Embassy of Malaysia, and teachers and students of Kulyat High School. A student from Kulyat will also be joining Secretary Angara to hand over the GEM Report 2023 Philippine version. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you and congratulations.
Good morning, a pleasant morning to everyone. Secretary Sani Angara, Ambassador His Excellency Abdul Malik Melvin Castellino, SEAMEO Director Dr. Ravago, CHED Commissioner Ethel Agnes Valenzuela, SEAMES Deputy Director Dr. John Siena, ASEC Georgina Hernandez, fellow workers in government, partners in the private sector, and our colleagues and friends in Southeast Asia. Good morning. I have the honor to share with you this morning a brief presentation on the 2023 GEM report, Technology in Education, a case study on the Philippines. We thank UNESCO Global Education Monitoring and SEAMEO for tapping the expertise of PNU to do this research in 2023. I am not part of the research team. Our research leader is currently doing a research fellowship in Prague. So he assigned me to deliver the report. But I am with some of the members of the research team joining me this morning. So baliktad na po. Ako na po ang ina-assign ngayon. Just kidding. So I think we all agreed that the pandemic underscored the very important role of technology in education. Many efforts have been done in the past already to fast-track the integration of technology, but maybe the pandemic has really advanced all efforts, or maybe forced us to integrate technology in education. Also, the pandemic exposed various gaps in digital access, infrastructure, and capacity in the Philippines. The study that we did aimed to assess the integration of education technology, or EdTech, in the Philippines, and it tried to examine the challenges, the opportunities, and policy recommendations for the government. Quickly, I'd like to share the methodology that we did for this research. We utilized a two-stage data collection. The first one is a systematic literature review on educational technology in the Philippines, and a rapid assessment through interviews and focus group discussions. We also did data analysis through content and thematic analysis, and we covered multiple regions across the country: Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The key findings of our research are the following. There is a glaring digital divide in our educational system, which reveals unequal access to technology among our learners. There is insufficient ICT infrastructure, particularly in remote areas in the country, and we have limited digital literacy among teachers and our students. So I think some of the presentations made a while ago, including the speeches of Dr. Ravago and Secretary Angara, already captured some of the salient findings of the study. Also, there was a concern on the quality of our digital learning materials and content, and slow policy adaptation to EdTech integration in education. So we tried to establish several themes based on the data that we have gathered from the field. The first theme is on digital divide and access to education. Our research reveals that over 1.43 million out-of-school youth during this period due to access barriers or access issues to technology. We also found out that 10,875 barangays identified as geographically isolated and disadvantaged, or JEDA. So if there is an elementary school in every barangay, some of these schools who are situated in these local government units have really issues related to access. Also, there are also limited access to schools in conflict-affected areas. DepEd's alternative learning system attempted to bridge the gap but still faces structural challenges in the process. There's also uneven access to free public Wi-Fi and learning devices. The second theme is on quality of teaching and learning with educational technology. We found out in our data gathering that our teachers in the field already utilize various digital tools. Examples are quizzes, YouTube, Google Classroom, and etc. This is to enhance student engagement or learner engagement in the learning environment. Also, digital learning can enhance students' critical thinking and independent learning. But still, we found out the lack of structured professional development, or PD, for teachers in the area of ICT integration, and limited adaptability of traditional teachers to digital instruction. This was also mentioned in the report a while ago. On the third theme, governance and policy gaps, we noted that there is an absence of national policy for educational technology integration. There is also a lack of clarity on digital learning regulations. In addition, bureaucratic inefficiencies in the procurement of learning technologies was also revealed. Weak enforcement of laws ensuring free internet access in public schools, and the need for legislative support for education technology expansion and also in the area of teacher training. I noticed what Director Shena has mentioned a while ago about policies that are already present, but somehow the implementation issues in terms of the speed and the efficiency of implementing these policies. Another theme that came out in the study is on digital skills development. Digital literacy is embedded in the K-12 curriculum, but lacks explicit focus on real-world applications. There's a need for strengthened ICT training for both teachers and also students. That's why it's good to highlight in the report not only the students but also the teachers. We also captured a data on higher education's role in promoting digital workforce readiness, and digital safety and ethical use of technology should also be emphasized in our education system. Talking about higher education, we put one theme under this, higher education and technology. We found out as well that there is an expansion of online learning platforms in universities, especially during the pandemic period. But there is a need to continue CHED support to flexible learning post-pandemic. Ay, mabuti po, nandito po si Commissioner Valenzuela. MOOCs and TESDA online programs are considered as avenues for lifelong learning. This was revealed by our teachers in the field. Digital divide still evident among higher education institutions, affecting faculty adaptation. So in the report, hindi lang po JEDA, yung mga barangay or elementary schools are affected by access issues. Even higher education institutions or universities located in remote areas whose connectivity is still an issue also experience the same problem. There's a need for continuous ICT infrastructure investment in our universities. So not only Smart Campus Initiative, but maybe beyond what was already provided. Lastly, we have the theme System Management in Education. We noted in the report that DepEd has already implemented digital learning platforms, but we also observe lack of full-scale adoption across the system. There were also issues in data collection and tracking for education technology use. And we noted that there's a need for better coordination between education agencies and technology providers. Some of these providers are actually private. And also, it's important to do streamlining of ICT policies and procurement processes, which is crucial to the implementation of reforms. Last night, I downloaded egov.ph. egov.ph, which was recently launched by DICT with the presence of President Marcos. I tried to navigate this egov.ph. This one is a one-stop shop application of the Philippine government that will connect you to the different agencies of the government. So probably that is a good start already. And talking about data sharing and utilization would be good to maximize this educational or educational applications. So for our recommendations, we have identified 6 recommendations. The first one is to develop and implement a national educational technology strategy. There's a need for a clear and comprehensive national education technology strategy, which is already emphasized by the existing fragmented implementation of ICT in Philippine education. The National ICT Ecosystem Framework, or NICTEF, aims to maximize the use of ICT in various sectors, including education. It identifies 6 areas for digital transformation, including resource sharing and capacity building through ICT, which supports digital literacy and professional development. The second recommendation is a common recommendation coming from different sources. Increase investment in ICT infrastructure, particularly in underserved areas. A significant digital divide persists between urban and rural areas due to inadequate ICT infrastructure, unreliable internet connectivity, and lack of electricity in some schools. Investments in telecommunication and renewable energy are necessary to expand access, especially to what I mentioned a while ago, the JEDCA, geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas. We also recommend strengthening public-private partnership that plays a very crucial role in addressing the access issue. The third recommendation is strengthen digital literacy programs for teachers and students. The document highlights the digital inequalities that exist among teachers, with many struggling to integrate educational technology into their lessons. This is not only present in basic education, but also in public higher education. Programs like DepEd Commons, Digital Rise Program, and Learning Management System aim to improve digital skills. However, many teachers in the field report a lack of professional development activities and access to ICT materials, hindering their ability to effectively use technology in the classroom. So not just provision of technology or gadget or equipment, but also training them how to efficiently and effectively use this equipment to maximize learning outcomes. Number 4 recommendation is enhanced collaboration between government, private sector, and higher education institutions. PPP is essential for advancing EdTech, and initiatives such as Teach for Ed project, we are providing some examples. We noted these are information coming from the teachers in the field, and the Digital Jobs Program by DICT, along with private sector efforts from companies like Globe Telecom and Microsoft Philippines, aim to improve digital literacy and workforce readiness. Number 5 recommendation, ensure the accessibility and quality of digital learning content. The DepEd Learning Resource Portal, or LRP, the Open Educational Resources, or OER, aim to provide free digital learning materials for teachers and students. However, challenges such as connectivity, lack of quality assurance mechanisms, and insufficient content alignment with the curriculum still persist. So we recommend strongly that before sharing these materials in open access platforms, quality assurance mechanisms must be properly observed. And the last recommendation is improve governance framework for technology in education. The Data Privacy Act of 2012 and the Cybercrime Prevention Act, which is RA 10175, set guidelines for digital governance in education. However, there's no standardized national framework for monitoring the effectiveness of digital learning tools. So I'd like to re-echo what Dr. Shena has mentioned in the report a while ago. I hope that monitoring and evaluation on the use of digital tools and technology is also properly made. In conclusion, I'm now on the last part of the presentation. The Philippines has made progress in integrating EdTech, but still faces structural challenges. Despite limitations in infrastructure and policy, the Philippines has successfully introduced EdTech in education with the support of non-government organizations. While these efforts are often uneven in scope, they provide valuable insights for national agencies on how to implement EdTech more effectively. However, these advancements are hindered by systemic issues in education governance, funding, and coordination among stakeholders. Second conclusion, digital divide, lack of teacher training, and governance gaps hinder progress. The high cost of ICT infrastructure and inadequate public investment create a digital divide, limiting access to EdTech, particularly in remote areas. Additionally, many teachers are not sufficiently trained to integrate technology into their instruction. Maybe this is also one of the responsibilities of Philippine Normal University, especially at the pre-service teacher education level. Governance challenges further slow EdTech adoption as agencies without ICT-related mandate are not fully utilized in supporting these initiatives. Third conclusion, policy reforms, infrastructure investment, and collaboration are key to success. For EdTech to be fully optimized, the government must enact strategies or policies that prioritize ICT investment in education. This includes systematic infrastructure development and ensuring that all key stakeholders, legislators, government agencies, NGOs, and DepEd collaborate effectively. Lastly, a national EdTech vision is essential for sustainable and equitable education reforms in the country. A long-term, clearly defined vision for EdTech is crucial for ensuring sustainable and equitable integration of technology in education, both basic education and higher education. So that's the last conclusion of our report. This is the project team who worked closely with UNESCO, GEM, and SEAMEO. I'd like to recognize them. One of them is joining me, Dr. Marcia Gomez. If you'd like to access the entire report, the case study for the Philippines, you can have the QR code here, but it's also available in SEAMEO INNOTECH and also in SEAMEO's website. Thank you and magandang umaga.
Thank you, Dr. Tuga, for that succinct presentation of the case study for the Philippine Zen report. We now move to our panel discussion. The discussion will focus on the reactions and input from our stakeholders. I would like to give the floor to Dr. Sherlyn Almonte Acosta, our moderator for this session. Dr. Acosta, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mona Liz. Okay, so we're now in the panel discussion, and I'm really delighted to hear the presentations of our esteemed guests. So again, I'm happy and I'm honored to moderate this panel discussion with our esteemed speakers, expert in the field of technology and education. While I was listening to the talk earlier, especially the talk of Dr. Tuga, it only strengthened the need for what we are doing right now, which is a synergy, a multi-synergy framework for AI integration in education. Thank you. And I believe in the write-up, it's a good resource for us, the one that you presented. Thank you so much. And yes, while there's already the GEM report, as evident in the recap or the summary of Dr. Shena, I think there is a need to continue the discourse or the discussion. And to start with that, I will call on the different speakers, the different panel members or discussion for today. So we have first in the line, so I'll introduce each of one of the panel members. Then after that, they will be giving a 5 to 7 minute talk about technology integration in education and what their organization is doing to improve the integration of technology in education. All right, so we have Mr. Elvin Ivan Uy. He is the Executive Director of the Philippine Business for Social Progress, the country's largest business-led NGO at the nexus of corporate citizenship, sustainable development, and poverty reduction. He also leads several of the most impactful local NGOs as chairperson of the Foundation for a Sustainable Society Incorporation, FSSI, treasurer of the Partnership for Development Assistance in the Philippines, PDAP, and trustees of the Caucus of Development NGO Networks, Code NGO, Philippine Council for NGO Certification, PCNC, and Restart Micro Enterprise, Restart Me, or Restart ME. He is the member of the Standing Committee of the Early Childhood Care and Development, ECCD, and Basic Education of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, EDCOM-2, and a former Assistant Secretary and K-12 Program Coordinator of the Department of Education, DepEd. Before and after the stints in the public sector, Elvin did product management, business development, strategic management, and sustainability in the Philippine telecommunication and steel industries. He is the recipient of the 2017 Carnegie Mellon University Outstanding Research Alumni Award and ranked first in the April 2025 Electronics and Communication Engineering ECE licensure examination. Wow. Elvin has a Master's of Science in Public Policy Management, highest distinction from Carnegie Mellon University in Australia as an Australia Award Scholar, and an ECE degree magna cum laude from De La Salle University. He completed a year-long IDEAS, stands for Innovative, Dynamic Education and Action for Sustainability, Asia Pacific Fellowship with the MIT Sloan School of Management, and United in Diversity, IUD, in 2023. Let's all welcome Mr. Elvin Ivan Uy. Sir, yes, please. Our next speaker, our next panelist discussant is Mr. Edward De La Rosa. Mr. Edward De La Rosa served as Assistant Executive Director of the National Institute for Technical Education and Skill Development under TESDA. He leads initiative advancing Tibet policies, research, and innovation. Before joining TESDA in 2016, he worked at SEAMEO Tech in Brunei Darussalam, 2009 to 2015 as Curriculum Specialist, Public Relation Manager, and Knowledge Management Manager, also serving as Resource Person and Course Coordinator for Training Program. He has presented papers in Tibet, in APEC, ASEAN, and other international and national fora, contributing to Tibet system development. Let's all welcome Mr. Edward M. De La Rosa. Next, we have Ms. Cora Mendoza, the Director of Accelerate Technologies. Cora's professional experience spans more than 29 years in ICT. Starting out as an applications developer, she moved to different roles in system and business analysis, network and data infrastructure specialist, as a solution designer, as an IT manager, as a technical and business advisor, and as a chief technology officer of fintech company. In this role, she found herself in organizations which are either start-up and are in the process of digital transformation. She recently joined Accelerate to be able to expand her professional mission to other industries, including healthcare and education through ICT. Accelerate aims to help its client experience acceleration by bringing in technology and from other countries and adapt this to the local setting in different industries. Cora was part of the pioneer team of Filipino company whose mission was to help schools in integrating technology in the teaching learning process at a time wherein internet was not readily available to most people. The company's holistic approach included not just the technology component, but also faculty training, digital curriculum resources. Cora believes that the holistic approach is still key even with the rapid development in ICT to transform education landscape of the country. Cora obtained her undergraduate degree in math and computer science from the Ateneo de Manila and her MBA from the Ateneo Graduate School of Business. Let's all welcome Ms. Mendoza. The last but not the least, our speaker, Dr. Reynald Pugoy. He is an associate professor at the University of the Philippines, Open University. He also served as the director of the UPOU ICT Development Office. Dr. Rain joined UPOU in 2015 and teaches graduate courses in programming language and artificial intelligence. His academic background includes a PhD in computer science and information engineering from the National Cheng Kung University in Taiwan, supported by the Taiwan Ministry of Education Scholarship Award. He also he holds a BS and MS in computer science from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He furthered his expertise with the research fellowship at the Anadolu University, Turkey, completed in October 2023. His research interests include artificial intelligence and learning management system, or Moodle. He has been recognized for his contribution to the field with several awards, including UPOU Gawad Chancellor for Outstanding Faculty, the Asian Association of Open Universities Young Innovator Award, Gold Medal, Best Innovation Award at Moodle Moods Japan, and Best Paper Award at the Philippine Computing Science Congress. Furthermore, his work has been featured in the prestigious IEEE Transactions on Knowledge and Data Engineering, a leading journal in the field of AI and data science. Since the emergence of ChatGPT and generative AI in 2023, Dr. Rain has delivered about 30 keynote addresses, presentations at various universities, institution, organization, and conferences across the Philippines and Southeast Asia. So without further ado, may we welcome Dr. Rain Pugoy. All right, so as to the sequence of the discussion, we'll have Mr. Elvin Uy first. Thank you.
Thank you. Magandang umaga po. Good morning. For my 5 to 7 minutes, instead of specifically talking about EdTech, let me pull back a bit. I'll discuss two topics mainly. I'll discuss the topic on digital skills and what it means for our young population, in fact, and also what it means to chase our demographic dividend, drawing on some of the data from the Year 2 report of EDCOM2. So let me start by showing this. This is from ADB, maybe less cited by a lot of folks, but very, very important. In 2022, ADB released a study on digital skills in the region. At ito po yung conclusion. Ang basic conclusion po niya, hindi na po differentiation ang pagkakaroon ng digital skills. So it's no longer a value add just to have basic digital skills. In fact, there is no improvement in employability between basic versus those with no digital skills. The only value add is if you have advanced or intermediate digital skills. So that is the expectation in workplaces, not just in the region but worldwide. For our students from Kulyat High School, plus your batchmates and those who are even younger, this is the kind of labor market you are entering. All of you, all of us, even us dinosaurs, we are expected to have pretty good digital skills. That is a basic expectation of almost any role. And then another ADB study, this was in 2023, but looking at data mostly pre-pandemic and mostly before the generative AI revolution, also said that in Southeast Asia, about 137 million of that workforce, these are the numbers that are at risk. Job destruction. So in the Philippines, for example, the blue bars are high risk, the orange bars are medium risk. So for Philippines, we're looking at combined more than 35% of jobs that could be at risk of either job destruction or major disruption. So these are jobs that a lot of us do now, but might transform quite significantly, either in the next few months, if not the next few years and decades. Industries and jobs, for example, in garment, in manufacturing, those things will evolve with generative AI. And then quickly, it was mentioned earlier about Director John, Dr. Ravago, even Secretary Sunny, about the balance of technology and equity and our own humanity. I think it's no accident that the 2024 Oxford Word of the Year is brain rot. Yan. Hindi po skibidi, hindi po sigma, brain rot yung word of the year, di ba? And brain rot, I think, captures the inherent worries about whether we're ceding too much to technology. But that's something we can discuss more in the panel. And then quickly, for EdTech and skills, this is also a summary of where EdTech are being utilized for reskilling and upskilling on the left, for skills qualification in the middle, and also for career planning. So we see this, for example, in efforts of CHED, TESDA, even DepEd now on micro-credentialing, and maybe using some technologies and that. We also see this in private and industry players looking at using EdTech or technology for their upskilling and reskilling, the continuous professional development of their workforce. And then, let me shift and let me ground the context even more. In the Year 2 report of EDCOM, I know this audience have read all 384 pages of it, cover to cover. But let me highlight two things. I'll highlight four things. The first two are in this slide. On the left side, shows you our learning gap from kinder to grade 3. So a lot of you know that the learning gap in basic education, 5.5 years. And about 2 to 3 years of that learning gap is already occurring as early as kinder to grade 3. The blue bar was the gap or actually the competency level, mastery level, pre-pandemic. The red one is post-pandemic. So we have, unfortunately, similar to other low or middle income countries, we suffered quite a lot of learning losses and disruption during the pandemic. It is still something we are trying to recover from as a country. And these gaps compound. So 1 to 2 years during K to 3, it compounds to as much as 5.5 by the end of grade 12. And then on the right-hand side, I wanted to emphasize this. EDCOM 2 had a section about disaster, about our infrastructure, about resilience. I think a lot of us, especially policymakers, but also those in this area, there's a lot to be said and a lot to be discussed about how can EdTech reinforce and strengthen resilience. What does EdTech mean when last year, for example, last school year, NCR and Cordillera had lost school days of 27 to 42 days. And those losses of school days are actually equivalent to about losing half a school year's worth of learning. So kahit hindi po siya buong semester na nawala, the learning disruption and the impact to actual learning outcomes are even more profound. Let me end with this slide. So on the right-hand side, I think this audience is also quite familiar with the concept of the demographic dividend. That of, we have a young population, it's about 25 and a half years old as our median age today. It was 22 when I first joined DepEd in 2011. So we are starting to age. And the demographic dividend is not a promise. It's already happening now. It's already happening now. What should worry or excite us, maybe at the same time, we have about 20 to 25 years left to maximize it. By 2045, our demographic profile will shift significantly. By then, we will be significantly older. And we have to ideally be far richer than we are today. Otherwise, what happens to countries like the Philippines, we are stuck in what the World Bank describes as a middle income trap. So we will probably graduate from low middle income to upper middle income mathematically by the end of this year. But middle income forever, plus pretty poor human capital outcomes in education, in nutrition, in health, so on and so forth. And the left-hand side just emphasizes the functional literacy rates across our population. Ito po yung EDCOM2 work with the PSA to really look at or to restate how we define functional literacy. For the past 3 decades that we have been measuring it this way, our functional literacy was always beyond 90%. Ang taas-taas niya. But when we actually look at what it means to be functionally literate in the 21st century, the numbers aren't as encouraging. So I know this is a lot of seemingly not so good news, but this is the reality all of us are confronting today. And the GEM 2023 Philippine version report, plus all the efforts from DepEd, SHED, and TESDA, and also us in the private sector, let's rally around making sure that we give every Filipino child the future they deserve. Maraming salamat po.
To our esteemed guest, good morning everyone, and also to representative from different organizations. And of course, the SEAMEO INNOTECH. Yesterday, I was only informed around 4 o'clock that there is, I'm going to present in this forum. No? So, and there is a requirement there that we will have to present, to prepare a presentation. So I have no time. What I did, I scan all of my presentation related to technology, and I was able to find one video presentation, but covering several topics. So what I did, I just cut that portion that relates to application of technology, how we do it in TESDA. In TESDA, we have the TESDA online program. I think everybody knows about it, and become very famous during the pandemic. From a subscriber of only around 30 to 50,000 before the pandemic, it increased to around 4 to 5 million right now. So talagang nag-ano kami. And during the pandemic, I think we are the only education agency that did not stop delivering the training program. During that time, we have no problem with the training program. We continue. And the TESDA online program is basically one of the strategy that we use. And during that time, also, we immediately develop our flexible learning system. So we issue a guideline on how flexible learning systems will be implemented in technical vocational education. That's why we did not stop doing the training. Of course, when an allocation, for example, where our training institution is there and it's ECQ, of course, stop for a while. Then when pronounced already as GCQ, then continue with the training. And we basically issue guidelines on how to follow the health protocol in the training delivery. Now, I have a very short video. I think this is only less than 3 minutes, just to show you the features of our TESDA online program and how it relates to overall program of TESDA. Okay.
In response to the technological advancements driven by the fourth industrial revolution, TESDA prioritized the modernization of its programs to integrate digital competencies to ensure that graduates are equipped for the 21st century competencies. Leveraging on the advancements in educational technologies, the agency strengthened the TESDA online program, or TOP. As the national e-learning platform, the TOP was upgraded to provide accessible and flexible TVET. Through its massive open online courses and through the multi-regional TOP. This enabled learners to access quality TVET anytime and anywhere, and TESDA technology institutions to deliver blended and online technical education and skills development programs, thereby contributing to a flexible and agile TVET system. The TOP mobile app was developed to enhance mobile learning and to enable offline learning for learners with limited access to internet connection. In addition to this, TESDA continuously explores low-bandwidth educational technology in the delivery of TVET. To increase its offering of digital literacy and ICT courses in TOP, the agency strengthened its partnerships with key industry players, including the IBM Skills Build program, Microsoft, and Globe, to offer additional courses on digital competencies. To serve as a guidepost in its mission of implementing innovations in the TVET system, TESDA developed its innovation framework, which focuses on the holistic development of competitive and employable learners by integrating education, research and development, and entrepreneurship through a stronger collaboration among industry, academia, and government. Among its major innovation initiatives is the establishment of regional TVET innovation centers through the Supporting Innovation in the Philippine Technical Vocational Education and Training System project. The regional TVET innovation centers shall mainstream research in TVET to study and develop technologies and innovative solutions supportive to economic growth in the region. In conjunction with this, TESDA consistently develops and promotes higher-level programs integrating essential digital competencies. TESDA is intensifying its partnership with industry and education technology providers, collaborating with other stakeholders for a whole-of-industry government strategy in greening TVET and promoting digital competencies. By championing sustainability and embracing technology, we empower learners to address global challenges and explore opportunities in a rapidly evolving economy. Through these initiatives, TESDA ensures that the workforce is prepared for a just transition, equipping TVET learners with the skills needed for a sustainable and inclusive future.
Okay, thank you. By the way, the latest project that we did with national implication is when we develop a module for financial literacy for the SK, because they will not be able to take their out of office, and especially the treasurer, if they don't have the certificate required by law. No, so what happened? The Philippine Youth Council and I forgot the other agency, they came to us that we have to develop this module so that they will be able, the SK treasurer will be able to attend to that training program. And right now, there are already requests to really develop the full qualifications, especially in bookkeeping, which is actually a requirement to become an SK treasurer. So with that, thank you very much.
Before I start, siguro, baka kailangan magising-gising tayo. I just need a show of hands, or if you want to stand up. Who among here in this room, started using computers when they were studying? Madami. Oh. Sino ang hindi? And they just got to use computers when they graduated after college. Ayaw umami. Meron pa rin, meron, di ba? So, it's really, the only reason why I use computers in school, because I was studying computer science. Di ba? So, in college, but definitely not from kinder to high school, no? I am bringing in my perspective from working with the ICT sector and maybe probably as a Gen X pa ba ako considered, almost retiring. So I'd like to bring in that perspective as part of my reflections on the UNESCO report. Okay. So people in the workplace now are exposed to technology even when they were studying. Now, I'm working with bunch of young people who just graduated from college, and they were born already like 2000, 2002. And the reaction of the people who were born in the 90s, sabi nila, my God, I feel so old, ma'am. Sabi ko, if you feel so old, how do I feel? No? So, because right now, 75% of people in our workplace are already millennials. These are the people who are already used to getting information from Google or playing games using their mobile apps, watching videos in Netflix rather than going out. But these people also are now, they like micro-learning opportunities as part of their continuing education. When you talk about micro-learning, they actually introduced me to the term YT Academy. Sabi ko, what's YT Academy? What's that? YouTube Academy, ma'am. Diba? So if they needed additional information or help in their work, they go to YouTube. Ako, my generation would call a friend. Can you help me with this one? They go to YT Academy. They go online. Okay? And then ask Google, and of course now ChatGPT, which is practically free. You know? So everybody's using that, using technology one way or the other. So given this current scenario, how do we prepare the learners who are still in school? And I think when you talk about technology integration, it follows what I call a PPT framework. This is what we use in my private practice. PPT framework, it's not PowerPoint, but it's people, process, and technology. When you introduce a technology, you introduce change, you have to look at the impact to the people and the processes that are impacted. It works in let's say, financial services. Definitely, before you open a bank account, you have to go to the branch. Now you can open a bank account right in your mobile phones, right? So, but just imagine what it meant to the banks. So in the same way in schools, just imagine what it means to educators, which are now have to use technology and expected to be better than their students, which is not easy. Okay? To be honest, sometimes I ask the young people, they're like, not even in their 10s, how I have a problem with a certain application, and they could figure it out, like what to do. No, I don't know how, but it seems natural to them. Next, when you talk, one of the key issues that was identified in the report was that equitable access to technology, and my reflection there is It's not just bringing in like 100, everything is 100% internet capable. You need to consider what we call DFV, the balancing the desirability, the feasibility, and viability. And the intersection of that is what I would call the appropriate technology that we need, okay? So desirable is the technology used meaningful to the faculty, learners, etc. Feasible is the technology available. And viability, can we afford the total cost of ownership? And is it cost effective? So when you talk about feasibility, example for internet, I can tell you right now, we can wire Philippines 100%, especially with satellite communications is available. But at what cost? Is it viable? So those are some of the questions that need to be answered as well. And yes, teachers we need to support the teachers, but many more, not just the teachers and the learners, are involved in tech integration. We have to look at the school, the entire school organization, which includes ICT coordinators, which includes non-teaching staff like ICT coordinators, even the librarians, they're changing roles, guidance counselors, administrators, and others. No? And the training would mean different types and levels of capacity building. You need a different type of training for just somebody who's new to computers and someone who has more or less the basic skills and to go to the advanced skills. It considers individual strengths. I think not all teachers are capable of delivering a lesson via technology, but they have to start somewhere. So we have to work with that and not have the same expectations for everyone. And based from my work before in technology and education, the best confidence building exercise is the sharing of best practices among peers. You find a peg, you find someone to inspire you. Oh, I can do that. That's an example. Oh, I can do that. And learner and the student support extends also to outside the school, because these learners, they use their digital devices if they have access to it, not just for academic, but also play games, watch videos, go into social media. So we need to also to address the safety, not just cyber safety, but also mental safety and physical safety. There are now health issues because of technology use. We need also to show them how to behave with ethically and responsibly, and instill self-discipline. No, we cannot control how they what the time they use for with their devices, but we need to instill self-discipline. Okay. So some ideas for the ICT sector participation in terms of appropriate technology is we can facilitate technology and funding partnerships, which can benefit education. TESDA is working with IBM, Microsoft, Globe Telecoms. We can also provide risk management solutions, including what we call the business continuity plans. What happens if all your learning materials are online and are in your server, then something breaks down, what will you do? So that's part of it. And we can also contextualize the digital tools and resources with collaboration from educators. One of our partners actually they deployed a learning management system, but for corporate use. And I asked them, do you have clients which are schools? Hardly. So I think that's something that that's an opportunity. In terms of training, to develop and provide platform for online training modules, and maybe we can also organize events and networking platforms to share and spotlight best practices of tech integration. Okay, give me one more minute. Who here has a LinkedIn account? Madami. is there a LinkedIn specifically for educators, something similar to that? I'm not aware, no? So maybe that's something that we could look at. And in terms of learner support, there are software that can be installed in devices to protect users and monitor usage. In the same way that there are tech tools to monitor, like employees, if they're using their laptops really for official use or for personal use, we can do that. And introduce security features in websites, applications, and softwares, especially when it comes to data privacy, especially for applications that collect and save and store personal data. And we could also have like security features to make sure that the user who is logged in is really that person. And as part of learner support is we could host cybersecurity summits. I know like LaSalle is hosted a cybersecurity summit for their own, for the university itself, but it's something that could be expanded to more schools. And sa conclusion, digital skills need to be complemented by ICT skills. My employees, they have varying range of technical expertise, but what makes people the star performer are not really their digital skills, but certain skills like adaptability, openness to continuous learning, critical thinking and analysis when it comes to evaluating and using digital tools and information in the internet, collaborating with others, which can involve multidisciplines and even multi-race. My team then before was Filipinos and Indonesian, so you have to allow also for religious differences. And lastly, which I think is most important, is how to communicate with each other with clarity using digital tools and still be respectful to each other. Thank you.
Hello? I think I'd like to... Hello? Yeah, sorry, I'm a tall person. This doesn't reach me. So anyway, it's so nice to be here again. I believe this is my third engagement with SEAMEO INNOTECH. The first one is the AI talk. The second one, we had a machine learning training last year, December last year, and this is my third time. So it's always nice to be back here. And yeah, when I was preparing and when I was thinking the kind of approach that I'm gonna do for today, I was thinking, how should I approach it? I don't want to give theories, that will bore you, right? I don't want to give purely numbers, that's also gonna be boring. Regardless, I've decided to give a concrete set of real life or real world examples as far as UPOU is concerned. So I hope that you have an idea what UPOU is all about. We are a fully online university, the UP Open University, and we are actually mandated by law, Republic Act 10650, to lead the open and distance learning initiatives here in the country. And of course, we embrace the fourth sustainable development goal, which is quality education for all, and also the 17th sustainable development goal, which is we can form partnerships to obtain or to achieve a shared or common goal or vision. Please hold on. Okay. So I've actually divided my talk this morning, which is about strategies and initiatives in integrating technology and education, the UPOU experience, into four. We have our so-called core strategies, Another one is IT advancements for hopefully future-proofing education. The third one is what kind of institutional support or institutional offices that we have established in order to further and achieve our goals. And also UP as a public service university, right? We also have to do capacity building and public service initiatives. And for our core strategies, as I mentioned earlier, we are a fully online university. And all our classes are hosted in our learning management system, which we call MyPortal, and that is based on Moodle to support scalable, flexible, learner-centered online education. Our students are all across the globe. Specifically, we have numerous OFWs who are our students. Of course, they don't have time to go to physical classrooms. That's why we exist, and we can accommodate for them. And in my case, I have several OFWs who are much older than myself, and they're taking postgraduate degrees. And also, we are producing our open educational resources, which are freely available, high-quality educational content to promote lifelong learning and global knowledge sharing. I also would like to mention, because I believe this was touched earlier, how can we help those people who are in remote areas or far-flung areas wherein the digital infrastructure or internet connection might be limited? And we are into this kind of research. I have colleagues who are developing or working on providing some sort of alternative courseware to support students in low bandwidth areas to hopefully ensure accessibility and inclusivity. And our course design incorporates different factors, such as gender considerations and industry inputs or industry standards for relevance, of course. And we also have this so-called quality circle to ensure continuous course enhancement from development to implementation. Now I'm gonna talk about certain IT or computer science advancements for future-proofing education, because we have to prepare our students. We are getting more and more advanced, and as a specific example, we are living in this AI-drowned world or AI-soaked world, and we gotta prepare everyone to live in this kind of world because AI is here to stay. And regarding AI, we have formulated our own set of guidelines on the use of AI for teaching and learning. I believe that the UP system principles is the first one in the country, and after that we UPOU base our principles on that foundational policy, and of course considering the nuances or the uniqueness of doing classes in open and distance education. That's why we formulated our own set of guidelines. And also we need to ensure that our different stakeholders, not only the teachers or professors, even the admin people, the staff, and our students, we have conducted roundtable discussions on the usage of AI in education. And we also have developed and deployed our AI chatbot for learner support, specifically for our massive open online courses. We have lots of students as compared to TESA. TESA has 5 million, right? But we have about 500,000, and that is still a lot. And we have limited number of people, and AI can help in this particular regard. And another policy that we have here, I would like to call it the cloud-first policy, because let's face it, the internet situation, the electricity situation in our country, so-so, right? Maybe here in Manila it's fine, but if we go to other areas, it's quite so-so. And where do we host our systems? Where do we host our learning management systems? If it's just in a server in a particular far-flung place, we cannot be certain of the accessibility. And remember, we are a fully online university, and we have to ensure, hopefully, 100% upkeep, 100% availability of our systems. That's why we have our cloud first policy. We use the cloud to host our learning management system, and I believe our cloud is located in Japan. Well, Japan is a lot better than sorry, than here and in the United States as well. So I was told to wrap up. Could you please give me 2 more minutes? Sorry about that. And cybersecurity, of course, we are beefing up our cybersecurity measures. We know that during Q4, many educational institutions here in the country face cyber attacks, right? And this is an important consideration because what is the use of, okay, we have all the technologies, but we don't have the sufficient cybersecurity personnel or cybersecurity literacy, right? So everything will be for nothing if we don't have the appropriate cybersecurity measures in place. And then, sorry again, we are also conducting research and deploying augmented reality and virtual reality for immersive learning. We are exploring applications to make the educational experiences of our students to be more immersive and interactive. And sorry, I'm running after a horse. Regarding institutional support, I'd say that we have established 3 offices to support technology, pedagogy, and the other technologies. The first one would be the ICT Development Office, the one which I am a director, and we lead the development and the deployment of appropriate, relevant, and world-class ICTs to achieve the effective delivery of quality, open, and distance e-learning. Of course, we have to have an office that can support any technology-related initiatives. And then another one would be for the pedagogy. We have our so-called Center for Open and Distance Teaching and Learning. This office is mandated to provide academic, technical, and admin support for the design, the delivery of course materials, course packages for the students' consumption. And related to our AR/VR initiatives, we have our IOP, Immersive Open Pedagogy Program, to enhance the impact of AR, VR, and other immersive technologies. I'm approaching the end, don't worry. And as I mentioned earlier, UP and UPOU, we are a public service university. We are a research university, and other SUCs and HEIs have approached us as well to conduct benchmarking activities. We are doing numerous benchmarking activities, which is spearheaded by our Office of Public Affairs. And we are offering massive open online courses. We have, I'd say, 2 relevant series for technology and education. The first one would be Technology for Teaching and Learning series. And the other one, which will be launched within the next few months, our AI for Educators series. And we are going to host next week our Tri-Conference, which is composed of 3 conferences: International Conference on Open and Distance E-Learning. We also have the International Symposium on Education, AI, and Cybersecurity, and International Symposium for Asian Studies. And I'd like to believe that these 3 conferences are all relevant to us. That's why, next please. If you are interested, you can, sorry for the shameless plug, you can just visit our website, tricon.upou.edu.ph. And as my last slide, before the last slide, again, if you're interested, you can just go to the website, or you can just ask me. You can approach me later. Because we need to continue the conversation. This doesn't end here, right? And this is a good place to continue conversations and make meaningful connections. And as I end, UPOU's comprehensive approach to technology integration education reflects our commitment to innovation, inclusivity, and academic excellence to lead the way in shaping the future of open and distance e-learning, open and distance education, digital education in our country and beyond. And with that, I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much to all our speakers. Their insights, they have tremendous insights about or rather, technology integration in education. And we have questions. We will entertain questions. If you have questions, feel free to ask or raise your question. And even here, Pearl Hall, and at the same time online, so we can receive questions from our online audience. But while you are framing your question, we have some set of questions prepared already, and I would like to express this question or to raise this question to our test speaker and Mr. Elvin Uwe of PBSP. So one key issue highlighted in the report is equity and inclusion, specifically how technology can enhance access to education. However, as also evident in the presentation, the digital divide remains prevalent. What are the factors that contribute to this issue? Sir?
Okay. Hello. Hello. Okay. Actually, to us in TESDA, the greatest issue is the sturdy connection, internet connection. Because without this connection, of course, any other digital technology activity will be very difficult to implement. That is the reason why we have in TESDA I think in the presentation, the e-learning in the box technology that we did. And actually, we used a Raspberry Pi technology to serve as a local server. So, for example, if there's an internet connection, then you can actually download the TOP. Now, and when there's no more when there is already no more connection, then you can still use the TOP within that device. So that's how we do it. And actually, we did evaluate this one through the Asian Development Bank. It was funded by Asian Development Bank. And we found out whether you use this e-learning in the box technology or use the website for the TOP, the effect is the same in terms of learning outcomes. There's no problem. That's why in areas where there is really connectivity problem, we suggest that you take this technology. Thank you.
So connectivity, as also given in the report, so connectivity is really a challenge, especially in those far-flung areas. Yes, sir. Sir Elvin.
Maybe quickly on the bad news for all of us. EdTech or technology has always driven a wider digital divide or a wider gap between the haves and the have-nots. If you look at all the literature, the fairly short history of EdTech, any disruption in technology typically would benefit those who have access, who have the resources. And then at some point, when technology becomes more affordable, more mass market, then it could go down further to the lower income demographics. I think what us as a country has to reflect on, governments, private sector, even parents and communities, how much inequity do we want to tolerate vis-a-vis how much resources can we mobilize to address the inequity? There is a cost to making sure that there is less inequity. And I think that's one of the more difficult decisions DepEd, CHED, and TESDA are grappling, or this national government, both executive and the legislature. Okay lang ba sa atin na yung mga nasa JIDCA, hanggang ganito lang yung pwede nilang gawin, pero kami o tayo na nasa Metro Manila, ito yung meron tayo. That's not an easy question to answer. But I think what the GEM report was also highlighting, even for countries, schools, communities, learners with access, with good resources to EdTech, the actual improvements to learning outcomes, the empirical evidence is also quite soft So I think it's also an invitation to policymakers, researchers, to look into this topic even more. Again, there's also a cost to measuring and evaluating. So a lot of that is also because policymakers and implementers are just so busy making policies or implementing policies. There's also not enough time or resources or bandwidth to really address and to really understand the effects of these policies. So it's a difficult question, but I think something we will continue to negotiate as a country going forward.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's very interesting. What then is the parameter for equitability? How do we say then that this is indeed an acceptable level of being equitable? So again, it's a very difficult question. A follow-up question to Mr. Elvin Uy, and also Ma'am Cora can also answer this question. Do you know of a successful model or solution that could support the provision of ICT in remote schools? And how will this model or solution be able to help the schools model? Are there existing model provided by your company or developed by your company?
Okay, the provision of ICT in remote schools. The first question there is the connectivity, the internet connection. So as I've mentioned earlier, we can practically connect everyone in the Philippines. Even with satellite communications that is becoming naging commoditized with Starlink. Starlink is here. We can actually, but at a certain cost. Are we able to shoulder that cost? So that's one. Second is, in my previous company, we were able to connect a school in a remote area. Again, it came with the cost, but the funding portion there was addressed by one of its graduates. It's a public school up north, and it became a beneficiary of somebody who graduated there, who made it big in the tech industry and is based abroad. So that was, but you don't have many benefactors like that, no? So in terms of successful if you want connected to the internet, 100% with computers, it comes with the cost, so where will the funding come from? Another model, which I think is doable, and I saw in the report, in some countries it's being done, it doesn't have to be all delivered through internet. There are offline models. You can also even use TV and radio, and I think that's still workable. After my stint in that technology, I call it Company C, I was involved in a program. We were trying to get a funding from an international agency, and they had no problems with our technical design because we were able to get support from a satellite company, a cable TV company to connect to the last mile, have computers that can be provided. But there are certain areas, we augmented that for some areas with materials through, so I'll mention it, yung Knowledge Channel, ABS-CBN Foundation, would provide the materials, in CD form pa, di ba? So, it doesn't have to be online. And in some areas also, radio. We were working, I think, with TESDA at that time to provide radio material. So, it could be a combination. I think that would be a more appropriate approach for our context.
Okay, so this is more of the high-tech, low-tech kind of approach.
Yes.
Or I think what is very interesting in the discussion earlier is the term appropriate. If you notice, they all mention appropriateness. And with that, it has to cater with what then is possible for this particular place. Thank you. Mr. Alvin Oy, do you want to?
I was supposed to have an answer for this, but when Director John showed the compass earlier about scale, so my background in PBSP, we have 262 private corporations who are our members. A number of them do support public schools. A lot of them have tried to bring EdTech also to these public schools. And I can cite a few good examples by Accenture Philippines, by IBM Philippines, by Telstra Philippines. But none of them are at scale. At best, these are 1 or 2 schools. Most of the time, they're also closer to Metro Manila, if not actually Metro Manila, because that's what's important and strategic also for the company. But let me submit my own hypothesis about this, having worked for DepEd before for 5 years. I think if, to answer my own question earlier about inequities and EdTech and the delicate balance for it, I think if we can use EdTech to make sure that teachers can really focus on their core work of improving learning outcomes, assisting students, making sure that they can nurture these young minds that depend on them, even if students themselves do not necessarily benefit directly from EdTech yet. I think that can be transformative, especially in underserved and very marginalized areas. For as long as DepEd, private sector, can give teachers a leg up, I think that can be transformative for the learners. And then eventually, once resources are more available, hopefully we reach more of these communities sooner rather than later.
Okay, thank you. For Professor or Dr. Rain, what strategies can be implemented to address the challenges and limitation of technological integration in rural and underprivileged areas? So, as mentioned already, there are some models and there are strategies earlier mentioned. What else can you add on that?
All right, strategies for addressing, right, the limitations. Yeah, there are three things on my head right now. First one, maybe something similar to what we have been discussing since this morning. We can consider some sort of low-cost technologies that can be deployed to these areas, because we can imagine that probably the budgets might be limited. I'm just not sure about that. But I think it just makes sense if we can deploy something that is low cost or something offline or something that is open source. I mean, based on a computer scientist perspective, the open source is something that is remarkable or something that we can take time to take a look into. And that is something that UPOU supports because it goes along with the spirit of openness that we are espousing. Another thing is, regardless of the infrastructure, digital infrastructure, or technology that we develop, this will be for nothing if there is no sufficient amount of digital literacy on the minds of the teachers or on the minds of the end users. That there is always a need to capacitate them. Because let's say, for example, if we don't capacitate them, who will champion these initiatives, right? Who will continue them? So what we can do, it's like, we train a local, quote-unquote, local missionary in that particular place. And then after we train them, then they can continue to do the work or continue to do the work in the ministry, something like that. And then another thing, I believe that the government is doing something right, but it doesn't mean that it's only the government who has the say. Or what I'm trying to say is it's not the government who has the responsibility to address this societal issue, because technically education is a societal issue. And I'd like to propose CSR or USR, corporate social responsibility, and this one USR university social responsibility is also growing these days. I mean, all of us have a part in helping to address this limitation. So in other words, we don't only address the limitation technologically speaking, but we also have to treat it as a social issue. And if we treat that as a social issue, I'd like to believe everything else will follow.
Okay, thank you. OER, CSR, USR, so these are other models or alternatives so that we can have equity and inclusion for or rather for technology integration in education. So let's proceed. Unless there are questions from the ground, do we have a questions here sa Pearl Hall po? Sir? Okay. Wala po? Okay, let me proceed with the last set of questions. So I think, again, follow-up questions in terms of quality for Dr. Rain. There is a belief among parents and teachers that devices can be sources of distractions in the classroom. How can school effectively utilize technology in the teaching and learning process?
You know, this question is similar to one of the questions that I oftentimes receive regarding AI, that AI can be a distraction as well. So each and every device can be a distraction. First thing, we have to establish clear policies and guidelines. We cannot answer this question if we don't have clear, comprehensive, sufficient policies. And there are two types of policies that we can consider formulating. First one is the university-wide or school-wide policies. And after that, is there a classroom-specific policy or subject-specific, course-specific policy? So those two things would go hand in hand. Again, university-wide policy and the classroom-specific policy. It's something similar to the course guide of your daughter, something like that. And another thing is, I know we've been talking about this, we gotta continue capacitate or train our teachers, that they have to at least have a minimal working understanding how these technologies work, that we're not training them to be dinosaurs, right? Sorry for the word. They have to understand, because if they don't understand, they will just simply, no, you can't use that. We don't want people to be like that, right? They have to understand. Let's say if they decide for their students not to use certain technologies, then at least they have a reasonable basis, that it is a logical foundation or reasoning, not only because, okay, I don't want that, but they only say that because they don't understand what they're rejecting, something like that. They should understand how these technologies work, and I'd like to add that it is incumbent upon the teachers to train, to educate not only the students, but the parents of the students as well. And if there is sufficient training or sufficient capacitation, then everything else will follow.
All right, so that's an important thing, capacity building, not only for teachers, of course, parents and community as well. So it's very important that we continue the partnership, and if I may say, the synergy of the different players in education. Now, for Mr. De La Rosa, the choice of technology must be deliberate, no, as given in your presentation, and should be aligned with its intended use in the classroom. How should TESDA, or the Department of Education, TESDA, and HEI select the appropriate technology for the classroom? Again, appropriate. That's part of your presentation, and the core of the Ms. Cora's presentation as well in the framework. Yeah.
Actually, in TESDA, we don't really provide very specific specifications on what technology they're going to use, because we believe it is the user who really know what is best technology that they will be able to do. However, in the policy, we provide some standards. They can use any technology provided it must be within these standards. For example, if we are going to deliver the programs online, there must be a communication line always available, as much as possible, 24/7, between the learner and, of course, if there's a trainer, no? So something like that. So we really don't put a very specific technology they have to use, because we always believe that if the training providers can maximize that technology that they have chosen to be used, then it will be very beneficial, no? And basically to the whole Tibet system. No? But what is very important to us is that they must be able to achieve, that the students must be able to achieve the learning outcomes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we learn a lot from the practical insights, no, given by our speakers. Again, one more call. Do you have questions? Is there anyone who wants to raise question? So yeah, please.
Hello, good morning to the panelists and to everyone here in the room. I know we've been talking about how AI is being widely accepted here, and especially in schools. But with your conversation, we've been tackling what we can do on a bigger perspective. But I'd like to ask my question with the context of what can we do in the classroom? Because as a future educator, I want to think of ideas or precautions that we can do for our students' integrity. Because as AI is being a little bit more accepted and widespread to the point that you can search anything, you can ask AI for ideas, and even do your work. So how can we, as teachers, reform the grading system when it comes to the availability of our students using AI?
Sir Rain?
I'd like to give a counterexample regarding that. When the first calculators were created, how did the math teachers respond to that? Right? I mean, they did not say, oh, I mean, let's try to imagine. What were the response of the math teachers when the calculators were created? So my point is, it actually depends on how you decide AI will be used in the classroom. It's similar to what I mentioned also earlier, that the teacher has to decide. It is up to the teacher's academic freedom, and I assume that you're talking as a teacher or as a future educator, right? And that's good. Continue with that dream. Okay, going back. Yeah, you have to decide how you're gonna allow its usage for the students. And off the top of my head right now, there are 3 possible usage. First one is completely unfettered access. So if you completely allow the use of AI, how are you going to form your activities in the classroom? That's one. And another one type of access is allowed under certain conditions. That you may allow the use of AI in, let's say, assignment number 1, if the students make the declaration of the extent of AI use, but for the other assignments, you may not allow. You can require them to agree to that. And the third one would be no AI. So just so that you have an idea how you can navigate the existence of AI in the classroom and how you can allow your students to use that. And at the end of the day, it's really up to your academic freedom. Because in my case, I have a class, I allow complete use of AI. But I have to change how I do the assessment, you know. I have to change how I do the assessment. I don't give multiple choice exams, something like that, because you can just simply ask ChatGPT, copy and paste. And I have other classes as well. I don't allow the use of AI in certain conditions. And I also know my boss, the chancellor, she allows the use of AI because what we can evaluate is the thought pattern, you know, not the answer. We can evaluate how the student thinks, not only the answer. So there are actually so many things we can, you know, we can explore regarding this situation, AI in education. And as I mentioned, AI is here to stay. It's not going to be gone. So it's really up to you. You have to design it carefully.
let me answer your question directly and indirectly. I think directly, some of the practices we're seeing emerging from academia is that you can use generative AI if that's the preference of the teacher or professor, but it has to be properly cited and attributed. And part of it is, for example, telling the students, you have to show us which prompts you use. So we can actually backtrack how you arrive at those content. The indirect answer I want to give you, in PISA 2022, they collect a lot of data for all the countries that took PISA. Two data that is quite important to this discussion. So PISA also measures use of device for leisure and use of device for learning. Surprisingly, Philippines was very high on both. Our level of our students' use of device for leisure and then use of device for learning were both quite high, comparable to some of the higher income countries. But the bad news is this. Ang use of device for learning, positive correlation siya sa, or positive association, I should say, with PISA results. Pero yung use of device for leisure, negative association. The more you use device for leisure, the more brain rot you have, if I were to oversimplify it. Pero, ang one way kasi to look at it, to look at that behavior, no? For a policymaker, you might say, ipagbawal ko. Let's tell the students, don't use it for leisure. But if you take it from a consumer marketing standpoint, what it tells you is, this is the emerging, if not actual consumer behavior now. How do I leverage that consumer behavior for learning? And just if you're a future educator or if you're a teacher now, I think that is the exciting part of it. If they're spending so much time on TikTok, on games, etc., can I wean them into other activities, still using their devices, that are more reinforcing of learning? And I think the answers might be different depending on the teachers, depending on the communities. But that's the opportunity that's coming out.
Do you have additional? Okay. So thank you so much for all those answers. And it's very interesting because, again, the idea, and yeah, thank you for that question, sir. That triggers the mind of our panelists or panel member. But it's also very interesting to highlight the point that it still rely on teachers first, competency, as mentioned by Sir Pugoy, creativity on how to implement or to use AI in the classroom, and also back up by study as given by Mr. Elvin Uy. And I think more importantly as well is the understanding of the ethics and the use of AI. Because I think in the University of in UPOU, apart from the general guidelines of AI, the teachers are also contextualizing the use of, or the ethics on the use of AI in their classroom. So again, the challenge is also on the part of you young educator, the part of the teachers. All right, with that, thank you so much. We all learned from the discussion. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Doc She, and to our panelists. I've learned so much. That's a very fruitful conversation. But we would like you to request to stay on stage, and we will be joined by Dr. Aravago, our Center Director, Asek Yang, also Mr. John Sena will be joined, also Mr. John Henares. Sorry, let me correct myself. Dr. Ivan Anthony Henares, Secretary General, UNESCO, National Commission of the Philippines.
flexibility and agility that online learning can provide to the education system.
The students and teachers can learn wherever they are.
Online, and we're in this moment right now where
สำหรับการเรียนรู้ของหนูได้ใช้ทั้งโทรศัพท์และคอมพิวเตอร์ในการเรียนรู้ค่ะซึ่งอุปกรณ์เหล่านั้นเป็นส่วนหนึ่งในการเรียนรู้ทั้งในและนอกห้องเรียนของหนูทำให้หนูมีแหล่งเรียนรู้มากขึ้นค่ะ
I use the internet to source for lesson materials and to create activities and also to prepare presentation slides for my lessons.
Madaming mga paraan na paggamit ng computer, pero ako, ginagamit ko ang computer sa pag-aaral para makapag-research at para malaman kung ano yung mga aaralin, kunwari sa mga libro. Pag walang libro, gagamitin ko yon, magsisearch ako sa Google para malaman ko kung ano yon, or pag may tanong yung teacher about the research or sa news, magre-research ako doon.
Dan juga terdapat juga segelintir rakan saya yang menggunakan komputer ini sebenarnya sebagai satu platform untuk kita kata menterjemahkan perkataan yang dia tak faham itu ke dalam bahasa ibunda ataupun bahasa yang dia mudah faham.
Siguro po magiging malaking tulong po sa aming mga estudyante kung magiging po siyang mas reliable na avenue to get information. Yung hindi na po namin kailangan i-filter yung information na kukunin namin, and hindi po yung ma-promote po lalo yung mga reliable na sources in comparison sa mga kumakalat po ngayong sources na hindi naman po credible.
I wish that technology would be so advanced that I could just download and remember the information in my brain.
Ang maitutulong po nito ay kung pwedeng gawing online na po ang lahat ng edukasyon para po hindi na po nila kakailanganin pumunta sa school para sa pag-aaral.
When there is no internet, slow internet connection,
how the computer will shut down, or I forget to save my work and then I have to redo everything. Sometimes when multiple people are working on the document at the same time, different parts of the document get elapsed or erased, and then you have to find some time to recover them.
ถึงแม้คอมพิวเตอร์หรือโทรศัพท์จะช่วยอำนวยความสะดวกเราในการใช้งานเพื่อการเรียนรู้แต่ในบางสถานการณ์ที่ต้องการความเร่งรีบอุปกรณ์ของหนูก็เกิดความล่าช้าซะงั้นทำให้หนูรู้สึกหงุดหงิดขึ้นมาได้ค่ะ
Well, I think just make it simple and intuitive. I think that's what technology should be. Coming from an IT background, I understand the complexities of technology, but the goal of any technology should be to be usable for everyone. And I think apps for learning should be no different.
Saya menyarankan penggunaan teks alternatif itu dipertingkatkan lagi untuk memberi gambaran ataupun memberikan gambaran kepada kami.
Could developers develop apps that could teach children to learn through games?
Siguro po sa Ministry of Education po, knowing na nagiging mas prominent po yung role ng technology sa education natin since nag-evolve po tayo as a society and as a country, ano po yung pwede natin gawin para i-make sure na wala po tayong may iwan? Kasi ako po, I'm fortunate enough to have access sa technology. And I'm also fortunate enough na maging literate to know, to filter kung ano yung information na dinadigest ko. Pero marami pa po out there na hindi as lucky as I am. So ano po yung magiging way natin to help them or to accommodate them moving forward?
หนูอยากให้กระทรวงศึกษาธิการได้เจรจากับบริษัทมือถือและบริษัทอื่นๆที่เกี่ยวข้องในการลดค่าใช้จ่ายของอินเทอร์เน็ตลงค่ะเพื่อให้รองรับกับเด็กๆทั่วพื้นที่ให้พวกเขาได้มีโอกาสในการเรียนรู้อย่างเท่าเทียมกันค่ะ
I hope that MOE will quickly harness the affordances of AI so that we teachers and everyone in school can benefit from it fully. Yeah.
Sa mga kawani po ng iba't ibang sektor at kagawaran, sa mga guro at mga kapwa ko mag-aaral, binabati ko po kayo ng magandang tanghali. Ako nga po pala si Avriliesha Cantilier, isang grade 11 student at isang mamamahayag o campus journalist ng Culiat High School. So, ngayon po, ibabahagi ko lang po ang aking mga na-realize nung binasa ko ang UNESCO GEM Report 2023. So, meron pong iba't ibang natutulong ang teknolohiya sa pagpapabuti at pagpapaunlad ng edukasyon. So, tulad ng malawakang paggamit ng social media upang magbahagi ng educational contents sa mga kabataan. And mas napapadali din nito ang pagkalap at pagbabahagi ng mga impormasyon. Mapapadali rin ang pag-aaral ng mga nakakaranas or kasama sa distance learning or alternative learning systems. So, subalit, sa kabila ng magagandang na idudulot ng teknolohiya sa pag-unlad ng edukasyon, meron ring mga yun nga, so kung maraming nadudulot na mabubuti ang teknolohiya, kagaya ng pagbibigay ng access sa edukasyon sa mga rural areas sa iba't ibang rehiyon, sa mga kabataang may kapansanan, nabibigyan din sila ng access nang hindi sila pumupunta sa paaralan ng pisikal, and nabibigyan din po sila ng chance mapadali ang paggawa ng educational contents. At pero meron pa rin pong milyong-milyong mga kabataan ang hindi nakaka-access ng edukasyon, lalo na po yung mga nasa mahihirap na pamilya or nasa mababang estado po sa pamumuhay. So, akin pong inaasahan na naway maging dahilan ang UNESCO GEM Report 2023 upang buksan ang mata at isipan ng iba't ibang kagawaran o sektor, pribado man o pampubliko upang mas matulungan nila, upang mas patuloy nilang matulungan yung mga kabataang walang access sa edukasyon sa pamamagitan ng makabagong teknolohiya. Dahil naniniwala po ako na pagdating sa edukasyon, wala dapat na kabataan ang maiiwan. Maraming salamat at mabuhay.
Good afternoon po. I'm Cyril Joseph Reyes, an ICT teacher from Culiat High School. So in GEM report highlights an urgent needs of digital equity, and I completely agree the real challenge is not just providing devices, but ensuring that all students and teachers can use technology effectively. Many students lack digital literacy, and for us teachers, there are still most of us struggles with the trainings and the adaptation of this technology. Moreover, I share the concern that technology should not replace us teachers, but to help us in enhancing the learning and teaching experience in our schools and inside of our classrooms. We need to balance traditional teaching methods with innovative teaching technologies in a way that supports critical thinking, creativity, and student engagement. In the long run, I hope that the government policies will prioritize digital inclusions and that technology will be used as tool for empowerment and rather than the source for inequality. So good afternoon.
Thank you, Teacher Ace, Teacher Jacille, Arvil, and Cyrus for those insights. To give the closing message, let's welcome Dr. Ivan Anthony Henares, Secretary General, UNESCO National Commission of the Philippines.
Good morning to everyone. As we conclude today's event, the UNESCO National Commission of the Philippines would like to extend its sincere gratitude to all who have played a role in the successful launch of the Global Education Monitoring Report for 2023 on technology in education. This report highlights the significant role technology plays in shaping the future of education, promoting inclusive, equitable, and accessible learning opportunities for everyone. In the Philippines, the integration of technology in education beyond mere innovation, it strives to tackle the myriad concerns of equity, inclusion, access, quality, and efficiency. During the pandemic, education agencies developed learning continuity plans to ensure that students could continue their education even during disruptions such as the COVID-19 pandemic, by providing alternative learning methods while prioritizing the health and safety of learners as well as faculty. It strives to uphold quality education in the face of emergencies or disruptions. Technology plays a significant role in education. As Audrey Azoulay, the Director General of UNESCO, said, the pandemic was the best illustration of what technology can or can't do to benefit education. Good this is that we did not begin from the ground up. The capacity building initiatives and pilot testing we are conducting in the country regarding digital learning media and information literacy, as well as the training on massive open online courses conducted by UNESCO, SEAMEO, and other international organizations were implemented and utilized during the pandemic. This is also the point at which we perceive that our educational challenges have doubled and escalated. The educational challenges presented by the digital divide, inadequate infrastructure, and the lack of digital literacy among teachers, learners, and the entire school community were amplified. As technology continues to advance, we are also experiencing a lack of governance and regulations regarding online safety, as well as a lack of ethical standards concerning technology and artificial intelligence, or AI. Today, as we listened to the diverse perspectives of our esteemed panelists and speakers, and explored the case study for the Philippines GEM report, we hope to reflect on how we can further contribute as individuals, as members of an organization, and as a country to effectively address the challenges in education. It is imperative that we prioritize collaboration and cooperation across governments, civic society, youth groups, the private sector, and international organizations to leverage technology in education. In conclusion, allow me to thank UNESCO for the publication of a report that offers valuable information, analysis, and recommendations to government officials, policymakers, educators, and advocates to monitor and expedite progress towards SDG 4. Our appreciation also to SEAMEO INNOTECH, the Philippine Normal University, all partners and contributors for sharing your insights as well as contributing to this impactful work, which is essential for improving the quality of education in the Philippines and the region. To all participants, representatives from education agencies, private sector, our clubs for UNESCO, let us harness today's momentum to further the revolutionary potential of technology in education. We must collaborate to ensure that every student has access to quality education and lifelong learning opportunities, regardless of their background or geographic location. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henares. We would also like to invite everyone that you can download a copy of the GEM report. So if you want to get a copy of it, please use the QR code available at our registration area. Again, thank you everyone for your participation. This has been Monalis Aguilar of SEAMEO INNOTECH. Lunch will be served. Thank you.